Welcome to r/Reddit Revenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. I told my boss's wife that he cheated on her. The second story. My old manager tried to sabotage my move and reputation, so I got him banned for life with a petty lie. The third story. I was getting overtime and my manager got into trouble because of it. And the first story is, ruined my SH boss's marriage. About 10 years ago when I was 19, I worked for a regional grocery store in the meatpacking department. Pay was bad and I had second shift. I came in at 3 and left at 11. It wasn't a terrible job, all things considered. I had the meat room to myself so I could listen to music and really just not be annoyed by other employees. My duties when I showed up was to package more ground beef and other beef-based products and put them on the shelf. After 5, I also had to juggle working behind the deli counter. Well, shortly after getting hired, the boss of the meat department showed back up from vacation, and I was the new guy. Everything was fine at the beginning, but I found when I would clock in, the lady behind the counter, we'll call her V, wouldn't be there and there would be a line. So I would clock in, spend the first 30 minutes of my shift doing her job. No problem, I actually liked that position. Well, after the line was done, I would almost always see Mr. Boss staring me down angry I'm not doing my job. He would give me the rant about doing my duties unless customers needed my help, and they almost always did, but he wouldn't listen. Come to find out, the reason V isn't behind the counter is because her and Mr. Boss are having meetings in his office with the door closed. Not my husband or wife, not my problem. We continue this dance of me covering her station and getting in trouble for it for a few weeks, until an ice storm hits. I tell my boss I can't my car out and I'm waiting on a ride so I might be a little late. He then proceeds to fire me because this is the last straw. By the way, I hadn't had any write-ups. I agree that it's fine, because I hate this job anyway. Fast forward 2 years, I'm 21, and I'm celebrating with my friends at basically the only local bar in this terrible tiny SH old town when we walk in. Who do I see? Why, if it isn't Mr. Boss and not V, but his wife. He looks at me and tries to act like it's a happy coincidence. I sit down, tell him it's my 21st. He buys me a beer as a gift and I chat him up. Enter my revenge. I introduce myself to his wife and tell her how he treated me, talking about how I would cover the deli counter almost every shift for half an hour, and then get in trouble for it because it wasn't my job. No matter how many times I tried telling me, boss, I wouldn't have to cover deli if he and V weren't having their daily locked door meeting in his office. She looked at him, looked at me, and couldn't say a word. It could be read as SH, but his wife was super polite and friendly, and not in that SH Southern religious style, but a genuinely nice person. I'm glad I could help pull the wool out to let her know her husband is a completely garbage person. I don't think you're a bad person because you told his wife about his cheating. Never be afraid to disclose matters to the injured party. The truth is always better in these situations. Being able to do it this way is, well, just the cherry on the cake. I feel sorry for his wife. He sounds like a complete idiot. He deserved it for being such a dumb A. And I hope the lovely wife was wise enough not to believe his lies later in the evening, when he said you were delusional, lying, fired on business, etc. Liars lie. I know she does. I once had a boss who was a total a-hole. Racist, sexist, and stupid. He was always bragging about how he had a lot of girls who adored him. One day he was driving his wife's car to work, and I put some lover's notes in the glove compartment and in his coat pocket. About a week later he said his wife caught him cheating, so he confessed to his many affairs. She divorced him. The next story is, sabotage my move, get banned for life. A little backstory. I've been playing floorball as goalie since I was 6. I even got as far as playing few games in my country's youth national team, but I ended up quitting around 18 years since I moved to another city to study, and besides, you don't really get to play floorball as a pro. Now to the main story. I had been studying for a few years when my classmate sent me a message. He also played floorball and his team needed a goalie for the upcoming season. It was the 4th division, not really my level, but I thought it would be all fun and games, so I decided to give it a shot. I ended up really enjoying myself. Everyone were nice and the spirit on the team was one of the best I've ever experienced in floorball. Our backup goalie was close to 50 years and said that he didn't want to play any actual games. He only wanted to enjoy the spirit and get to play in the trainings. We ended up being on the top of the table all the season until the very end, mostly because of me. I ended up becoming friends with most of the team, even with the manager who also played on the team. Let's call him M from now on. M had a huge thing on old cars, his crown jewel being an old Mercedes from somewhere around the 70s. Apparently it was his dad's old car, and he left it to him after he died. Now to the events that unknowingly started the road towards my petty revenge. One weekend, M had a family gathering. Where I'm from, it usually means becoming drunk with your family, then heading for a bar to get more drunk. We made a deal that I would be the designated driver for a pizza, after the bars would close in 20E. On the day, M came to pick me up, and for some reason I was made to drive his dad's old car. I took him to the gathering, went home, and later took him and a couple of his cousins to the city centrum to go clubbing. After couple, M sent me a message asking if it's okay if he went to an after party and I would pick him up the next day. No problem for me, so I went to bed. Next day, M called me to pick him up. On the way to the address he sent me, someone crashed on the back of the car. I didn't suffer any injuries, but the car got effed up. The back of it was completely broken. It was basically unrepairable. M assured me at the time that it wasn't my fault, and even though he felt really bad about, he didn't have a problem with me and I believed him. Fast forward a couple of months, and it became very clear that it was a big problem. Suddenly I didn't get to play anymore, and we ended up going from first to fourth. Only explanations M gave me was that I had played every game so far, and it would only be fair to let the other guy play the same amount. He suddenly took hours or days to reply to me, when he used to reply in 5 to 10 minutes before. I thought he was just bitter and decided to move to another team for the next season, since I really enjoyed playing again. Summer came and I got into a team in the second division. We finalized the trade papers and everything was going fine, until my new manager informed me that M had declined the trade, appealing to some unpaid payments. I sent him a message and he informed me that I hadn't paid 70E for the license. No big deal. I immediately started paying it and filling the information for the payment. My netbank, on the other hand, suggested all the information after I had written a couple of letters, so I decided to check my old payments. I found out I indeed had paid it already and took a screenshot of it and sent it to M. I got no reply of him, but after a couple of days I got a message from my new manager with a picture of the same screenshot I had sent to M. Only that it wasn't exactly the same. It was photoshopped to look like fake, with lines broken and fonts changing. The new manager informed me that they don't want to have anything to do with someone who does this, and that faking payments is actually a felony. I ended up clearing the whole thing off with the Floorball Federation, with proof that I had paid all the payments I needed, and they gave me a green light to move to another team. M, on the other hand, is well known in the community, and had gone and told the same lie to almost everyone who was willing to listen, so I had nearly no chances to get to a team. I knew that my studies would end in a year, and decided to take a break and just focus on my studies. After a year, I finished my studies and moved to yet another city to work. There I was contacted by a first division team who wanted me to be their goalie. While finalizing the paperwork for the license, etc., I got a message from the manager that M had again declined the trade for the same reason, and that M had sent him a message about fake payment and stuff. I told him the situation and asked him to call the Federation, who explained the same thing to him. Everything went fine afterwards, and I got into the team. In our country, there's a cup competition going on during the season. Basically, every team in every division takes part of it. Lower division teams play first against each other, and every round teams from higher division comes along. Basically, the lowest divisions start from round 1. My team, on the other hand, started from the round 5. They draw the pair of teams who play against each other, and winner goes through, until there's only one team left. The day comes when we hear which team we're playing against on our first round, and lo and behold, we play against M's team. I was excited to get revenge by absolute massacre on the game, since we were in a whole another level than them. It was like professional UFC fighter taking one-on-one against a kid. The game itself was actually pretty boring from my point of view. We scored goals, and although M's team got some shots, they came from far away and not too often. Then came the moment that changed it all. In the third period, they got a power play, and M came in front of the goal to block my view. A shot came that I couldn't get hold of, and there was a small traffic in front of my goal. My defender ended up pushing M on top of me by accident, and we both ended up falling. Me on my back, M on top of me. While he was getting up, he held his hand on my chest. No big deal, until I realized the referee thought that M tried to choke me and sent him out. They checked that I was okay and the game continued. Later I saw a video of the incident, but unfortunately you couldn't see what happened, since there were too many people in front of the goal. After a week or so, I got a call from the Floorball Federation to explain my view of the incident. Choking a player in a game is actually pretty serious stuff, so I saw my opportunity to give him a little revenge. So I told them that he choked me and I had to fight him off. I thought it was word against word, since you couldn't see what happened from the video, so nothing would happen. After some time, I hear the news. M had a record of choking a player 2 times before, and one incident where he had punched a guy in the throat. He ended up getting banned for life, and a denial to have any relation to any team in my country, all because I felt a bit petty. Sometimes I feel bad for it, but then I remember how anxious I felt while thinking about what kind of person the local floorball community thought I was. I like your long style of playing for revenge. This guy was constantly putting sticks in your wheels, so you shouldn't feel guilty about it. The fake Photoshop payment was totally appropriate, and then discrediting you to any other team means he crossed a point where he deserved everything and worse. To me, that's equal and fair punishment. He tried to lie to get you out. You managed to counterattack and win. You can even sue him for defamation because of the whole fake payments issue. The last story is, refuse to let me go home on time? Give me loads of overtime then. My supervisor was one of those little peas who did absolutely nothing and loved being in power, and was always on a power trip. He delighted in being the supervisor even though he didn't know how to do his job, and was horrible at it. He loved holding people over their shifts just to see them squirm, and run late to whatever things they had planned after work. He loved to belittle me and call me useless and stupid. In the state where I work at, any shift worked over 5 hours entitles you to a 30-minute unpaid lunch break, and if you don't clock out or take a lunch break before then you automatically get a full hour's worth of pay. I was also entitled to double time if this happened for consecutive days in a row. I was routinely scheduled for shifts that were 4 hours and 45 minutes, which just cut me short of the 5-hour mark. Before my shift would end, I would make a show of looking at my watch and talk excitedly about my plans after my shift. Supervisor would then purposefully hold me over, which would turn my shift into 5 hours, and enabling me to get those extra $15 an hour. Or I would purposely be slow to task, in which he would laugh at me and say, "It's so cute and pathetic at how slow and bad I am." I ended up getting so much overtime pay because of him, and eventually he got in trouble for consecutively holding me over, and the company having to pay me so much for overtime. F with me and I'll F with you. I think the best part is that you lured him into it by talking about plans. If you were deliberately procrastinating and they weren't a-holes, and they really just needed the work to get it done, then I'd say you're an a-hole. But at this point, the end justifies the means. Once at work, I was observant enough to notice in a trash can a note, hastily tossed and only slightly crumpled by my manager, sent from a corporation urging me to not to inform us employees of a class action lawsuit against the company for non-payment of overtime. So I contacted a law firm, and I was added to the lawsuit. The only representative from my entire district, the company was fined, and we all got a tidy sum of money, even though we were never in arrears. But it was still a nice parting gift before I left for another job. Subscribe, hit the like button, and have a nice day.